Okay, in this video, I'm going to go from start to finish on how to set up the bulk data API to create records at scale. So when you might want to use this is it's a more efficient approach than using the schedule API workflow on a list or setting up a recursive workflow. It's going to create the records a lot faster and it's going to use less workload units in the process. Now, what I'm going to do is go from start to finish. So step one is to come into your API settings and enable the data API. Now, this is a training application that I use. What I'm going to do as soon as I finish this video is actually disable this data API so that I don't get you guys spamming. But you guys want to be careful on who you expose these URL endpoints to. The other thing you want to do is you want to generate an API token and use that in the header when you're creating this. So I'm going to create a test one now, which I'm going to delete after this video. So I'm just going to call it test key. And what I'm going to do is expose, let's say we'll create, let me just look at the data type. Let's look at a simple one. Let's do exercises. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to my settings here. I'm going to expose exercises. Now what I'm going to do is copy this data root URL, go to the API connector and add a new API call called bubble data API. And what we're going to do is set up a new API call. Now this is going to be a post call and the data type is going to be text. And what we do is that is our URL. Now the next thing we want to do is tell it which record. So this is going to be exercises, and then / bulk. Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to say bulk create exercises. And what I'm going to do is make it raw. And we need to add a header saying content type. It's going to be text plain. And we also need to add a header for our API key. I believe it's just authorization. And then bearer, whatever our token is. So I'm going to go back to the settings, grab the token, it's already copied, and put that after there. Now what we're going to do is we're basically going to create the JSON structure of this record. Now exercises we can see here has 4 fields. I'm just going to do name for now and maybe AI. So let's try those two. So is name a capital? It is. So okay. Cool, so we should actually be able to try that. Let's see what happens. Not found, type not found, exercises. I may have spelled it wrong. So I spelled it wrong. Exercise. How do you spell exercises? Not sure if that's correct spelling or not. Try that. There you go. That's EXERCISES. Oh. Okay, cool. Let's try that again. All right, so we can see we got the status as correct. So that means we've created the record. And if I go, it gives you the unique ID there. It ends in 930. It's also going to be the last one created. If we go here, we can see it ends in 930. So that's one record. Now what we have to do to get this to work is essentially send each object that you want to create on a new line. So if you can see that creates the number 2 there, that's a new line. And the way Bubble takes it is 1 JSON object per line. So if I was to add it like this, I'm going to get an error. But if I'm to add it on a new line, you'll see it works and it creates both records with the IDs. Now, what I've tried in the past is to copy and paste this and add it in a variable. So let's just call it content. But what you'll notice is Bubble doesn't copy that new line into parameters. It sends it on the same line, and what you're going to get is an error. So the way I set this up is set it up with 1 and actually call this a variable. Let's call it content. And send our singular object. Check that that works. Cool. Now what I'm going to do is go to this test page and show you how you can create this in a workflow. So I've found you have to do a bit of a workaround to do multiple. And what I'm also going to do is put a text on the page so you can see what we're dealing with. So what I'm going to do is, oh, that's not bad. I'm just going to move that to the side. I'm going to add an arbitrary text. I'm going to call it name Adam, and then I'm going to separate it with a percentage sign. Actually, yeah, let's do that. So we have 4 records there, and then what I'm going to do is find and replace. I'm just pretending you had a list. So percentage, replace it by an enter key or a new line. And what you should see when I preview this page is we have our line separated objects. Now what I'm going to do is when bulk and create, I'm going to copy that and I'm going to go to bulk create. Let's just make sure it's an action. And I'm going to bulk create exercises. So you could set this up in a back-end workflow. And I'm going to, so bulk create with 4 records. Now, what we can see in here, how many records have we currently got? 17. There's 4. I'm just going to delete them all. Actually, be rude. This is an application my friend's building some test things in. I'm going to delete those 4 records. Now what I'm going to do is come back here, hit bulk create. We can run in the debugger. You can see it's separated, and let's see what happened. We've bulk created all 4 of our records. Now, this is much quicker than using a regular workflow. I believe you can use up to 1,000 lines per bulk create. And if you need to pump data into your application, this is the most efficient way to do it. So I hope that was helpful. I know it can be a bit confusing to set this up sometimes, so hopefully that makes it easy for you. And thanks for watching.